With social media already a distraction, relationships only add more strain. Psychological development is key to raising the age of consent.
Which is the enforcement of our current laws and not the age of consent itself.
If we are to be 100% real, teenagers have been sexually curious since the dawn of time.
Good evening, and welcome to this, our first encounter in round 2 of the Caribbean Union Bank Intersecondary School Debate Series. We are so happy to have you with us this evening, and I'm sure you can attest that you did enjoy the round 1 encounters. This evening's encounter promises to be a very engaging and thought-provoking one, and the mood is based on a timely issue. This evening, we have 2 schools. Our defending champions, the 2024 champions of Sonoval Richards Academy, coming up against the St. Mary's Secondary School, and they will be debating the moot. The age of consent in Antigua and Barbuda should be raised to match the voting age. I repeat, the age of consent in Antigua and Barbuda should be raised to match the voting age. And I can assure you that both teams are fully prepared this evening to defend their positions. Now, let us meet our teams. We have the Sonoval Richards Academy, who are proposing this evening, and the St. Mary's Secondary, who will be opposing. We turn to the proposing team, the Sonoval Richards Academy, and we ask the team members to introduce themselves.
Good evening. My name is Jay Joseph, and I am the first speaker for the Cernova Richards Academy.
Good evening, I am Keisha Harilal and I'm the second speaker of the Cernova Richards Academy.
Good evening, my name is Ciara Dowdy and I'm the first standby speaker of the Cernova Richards Academy.
Good evening, my name is Omaya Christopher and I am the second standby speaker of the Cernova Richards Academy.
Please give Team Sonoval Richards Academy a round of applause. And now to the opposing team, the St. Mary's Secondary School.
Good evening, my name is Dominic Blair and I'm the first speaker of the St. Mary's Secondary School.
Good evening, my name is Genovia Omad and I'm the second speaker for the St. Mary's Secondary School.
Good evening, my name is Kimoy Francis and I'm the first standby for the St. Mary's Secondary School.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Antoine Levine. I'm the second speaker standby for the St. Mary's Secondary.
Please welcome Team St. Mary's Secondary. Adjudicating this evening's encounter is an esteemed panel of judges who will evaluate each team based on presentation, rebuttal, delivery, and teamwork. Our judges for this evening are Mrs. Alyssa Graham, Public Relations Officer, Antigua and Barbuda Electoral Commission; Mrs. Asata Roberts, Deputy Head of Campus, Abbott; and Mrs. Heidi Francois, educator for over 25 years and now works within the Education Broadcasting Unit. Please give our esteemed panel a round of applause. And as I do every evening, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to remind you that the judge's decision is final. Say it as if you believe it. It is final. Now, I will remind you of the evening's debate format. The first speaker will have 5 minutes to present their arguments, while each second speaker will have 3 minutes to conclude their team's position. A bell will chime once at the 4-minute mark for the first speakers and twice at the end of the 5 minutes, and will sound once at the 2-minute mark for the second speakers and will sound twice at the conclusion of the 3 minutes. The rebuttals will follow with 3 minutes allocated for each team's response. Our official timekeeper for this evening is Miss Aisha Lynch. Please give our timekeeper a round of applause. Now, let's begin this evening's debate. But first, a message from Caribbean Union Bank, and when we come back, our debate will begin.
Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way. Caribbean Union Bank, you matter to us. Caribbean Union Bank, our people, our purpose. Every day at Caribbean Union Bank, we are committed to creating the kinds of products and services that you want and need. We are not just a bank. We are your partner on your journey to financial freedom and success because we are driven by you. Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way.
Thank you for staying with us and welcome back to this, our first encounter in round 2 of the Caribbean Union Bank Inter-Secondary School Debate Series. This evening, we have a very interesting debate for you. The mood, the age of consent in Antigua and Barbuda should be raised to match the voting age. The age of consent in Antigua and Barbuda should be raised to match the voting age. The two schools this evening who will be competing are the Sonova Richards Academy and the St. Mary's Secondary School. The Sonova Richards Academy will propose the moot, while the St. Mary's Secondary will oppose. We begin this evening's proceedings with the first speaker from the proposing team, the Sonova Richards Academy. Please join me in welcoming to the lectern Miss Jade Joseph.
Madam Moderator, distinguished judges, worthy opponents, and esteemed audience, good evening. I stand before you with conviction. In support of the moot, the age of consent should be raised to match the voting age. First, let us define the key terms of this debate. The Sexual Offences Act, 1995, sets the age of consent at 16. The Collins Dictionary defines raise as to increase and match as to align. The Representation of the People Act, 1998, sets 18 as the voting age. The core issue is whether the law granting 16 and 17-year-olds the right to consensual sexual relationships should be increased to 18. As the proposition, we firmly agree. Madam Moderator, my argument is rooted in theoretical framework, including 1. Adolescent development and maturity, 2. Laws recognizing minors' limited competence, 3. International treaties protecting women and children, and 4. Biblical principles guiding our moral compass. My colleague will explore societal impacts. To begin, Madam Moderator, adolescent cognitive and psychological development is key to raising the age of consent. Neuroscience shows the prefrontal cortex, which governs impulse control and decision making, is still maturing at 16 and develops into the early 20s. As a result, 18-year-olds generally demonstrate better judgment and self-regulation. Honorable judges, Piaget shows that 18-year-olds think more logically, and Kohlberg proves that 16-year-olds seek peer approval, while 18-year-olds reason independently. Erickson also confirms that 16-year-olds are still forming their identities, whereas 18-year-olds develop stable, mature relationships. My worthy opponents, the low age of consent ignores this developmental gap, leaving young people vulnerable. 3 renowned sociologists confirm this. Thus, the law must change. Secondly, Madam Moderator, legally raising the age of consent aligns with the protective laws of the land. The Licensing Act of 2018 prohibits alcohol sales to minors, acknowledging their limited ability to handle its effects. The Vehicle and Road Traffic Act mandates supervision for 16-year-old drivers until they can legally drive at 18. The Labor Code restricts employment for those under 18, and 16-year-olds who work part-time are required parental consent. Esteemed opponents, if 16-year-olds lack the maturity to vote and are prevented from engaging in these major life-changing activities, how can we justify them consenting to sex? This legal inconsistency must be addressed. Laws should protect, not facilitate exploitation. Thirdly, Madam Moderator, Antigua and Barbuda is bound by CEDAW and the Inter American Convention to protect women and girls from domestic and sexual violence and sexual harassment. Yet, the UN Women Report highlights persistent issues in Antigua and urges for stronger legal framework. Honorable judges, British Minister of Crime and Policing, Kit Malthouse, in a similar parliamentary debate, warned that sexual abuse severely harms 16 and 17-year-olds, fostering unhealthy attachments and impeding their independence. Raising the age of consent is essential to protecting vulnerable girls and fulfilling our international obligations. This is not just a legal reform, but a moral necessity to prioritize the safety, dignity, and future of young women in Antigua and Barbuda. Finally, Madam Moderator, as a Christian nation, we must consider the moral implications of our laws. Our national anthem states, God of nations, let thy blessings fall upon this land of ours. Yet, how can we expect blessings when our laws encourage immoral sexual behaviors among the vulnerable? While the Marriage Act legally permits marriage from 18, we allow younger individuals to consent to sexual activity, creating a glaring inconsistency. The solution is not just a national day of prayer. Honorable judges, faith must come with works. We must rework the law to align the age of consent with adulthood. Without this change, we risk societal degradation instead of the blessings we seek. To conclude, Madam Moderator, the theories, laws, and principles that govern our society overwhelmingly support the argument that 16-year-olds are not mature enough to make life altering decisions about sexual consent. Raising the age to 18 would ensure young people are fully equipped for the responsibilities they undertake. This change is necessary for the protection of our youth and the future of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Miss Joyed Joseph, the first speaker from the Snowval Richards Academy, presenting her argument in a time of 5 minutes and 16 seconds. We now move to the first speaker from the opposing team, the St. Mary's Secondary School. Please welcome Mr. Dominic Blair.
Madam Moderator, most esteemed judges, our worthy opponents, listening and viewing audiences, good evening. It is with utmost conviction that my artillery colleague and I oppose the move which states the age of consent in Antigua and Barbuda should be raised to match the voting age. In a debate of this distinction, it is only fitting to begin by defining the key terms in the motion. According to Merriam-Webster.com, age of consent refers to the age at which one is legally competent to give consent, agree to marriage, or sexual intercourse. Voting is defined as the act of choosing or endorsing a candidate or policy, and raise simply means to increase in amount. As outlined in the Sexual Offences Act, Section 6, the age of consent is 16 years and the right to vote is given to persons 18 years and older, according to the Constitution of Antigua and Barbuda, Section 40. We therefore interpret the move to mean the age of 16 is adequate for persons to be competent enough to legally agree to marriage and sexual intercourse and does not need to be increased to the age of 18 when one is allowed to decide who should govern Antigua and Barbuda. Madam Moderator, today my colleague and I will prove our position using 5 key points. I will commence by convincing you with the subsequent facts. 1. Sufficient neurological development of the 16-year-old's brain. 2. The ability of 16-year-olds to make critical decisions. And 3. The impractical expectation that all teenagers will remain abstinent until the age of 18. Thereafter, my artillery colleague will persuade you with the subsequent facts. 4. The legal and financial impacts of increasing the age of consent to 18. And 5. The focus should be on enforcing the current laws to deter sexual predators. Firstly, the neurological development of the 16-year-old's brain. Esteemed judges, let's take a moment to examine the science behind adolescents' brain development. Based on expert knowledge of Dr. Leroy Marsh, a medical practitioner who served under Antigua's only neurologist, Dr. Gaydon Osborne, he notes that there are two vital parts of the human brain that we must consider. The limbic system. This controls emotions and reward-seeking behaviors. It matures earlier and is responsible for emotional highs and lows experienced by teens. Two, the prefrontal cortex. This is responsible for decision-making and understanding consequences. It undergoes significant development between the ages of 15 and 16 until the age of about 25. Taking this into consideration, should our leaders proceed to raise both age of consent and voting age to 25 since at 18 your brain is still developing? I think not. Next, the ability of 16-year-olds to make critical decisions. Our worthy opponents, I have a fascinating fact for you. The Age of Majority Act, Chapter 11, Section 13, grants 16-year-olds in Antigua and Barbuda the right to make medical, surgical, and dental procedures without parental approval. Dr. Linda Lovell Roberts, the former director of pediatrics in Antigua and Barbuda, affirmed that there have been few to no recorded cases per year of long-term adverse effects due to 16-year-olds being the sole consenter of medical procedure. Let's take a moment to reflect on this. If a 16-year-old is legally competent to consent to surgery, which carries serious risks and complications, should they not also be trusted to make informed choices regarding their intimate relations? Lastly, the impractical expectation that all teenagers will remain abstinent until the age of 18. Madam Moderator, if we are to be 100% real, teenagers have been sexually curious since the dawn of time. And the sudden expectation that all teenagers will remain abstinent until the age of 18 is unrealistic. Teenagers experience natural curiosity and hormonal changes that drive exploration. Studies show that abstinence only education does not prevent sexual activity, but rather leave teens unprepared, increasing the risk of unintended pregnancies and sexually transmitted infections. The Center for Disease and Control Prevention reports that 42% of girls and 38% of boys aged 15 to 17 have engaged in sexual activities. These numbers are eye opening to say the least. In our humble opinion, a more practical approach would be to establish a comprehensive sex education campaign, which would empower young people to make informed choices, open, encourage open conversations about abstinence, contraceptions, and disease preventative measures. Most esteemed judges, an individual's ability to govern their own body and to make personal decisions about intimate relations is not equivalent to one being able to decide who should govern a country. I rest my case.
Thank you, Dominic. That was Dominic Blair, the first speaker from the St. Mary's Secondary School, who is opposing this evening, and he presented his argument in a time of 4 minutes and 59 seconds. With the first round of speeches concluded, we now turn to the second speakers. Representing the Sir Norval Richards Academy, please welcome the second speaker, Miss Keisha Harilal.
All protocols previously established, good evening. My colleague has outlined why raising the age of consent is necessary. Now I will highlight the devastating effects of the current law on education, teenage pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases, and our social systems. Madam Moderator, the voting age is set at 18 because voting demands responsibility, awareness of consequences, and informed judgment, traits that take time to develop. Yet, our laws allow 16-year-olds to consent to sexual activity, putting their education at risk. As a student, I understand the struggle of balancing academics and responsibilities. With social media already a distraction, relationships only add more strain. Where the opponents, sociologist Ronald Dahl notes that adolescent boys are impulsive, prioritizing gratification over responsibility. But why am I highlighting males? Well, UNICEF's 2021 fact sheet on Antigua shows that they are 13% more likely to engage in fights, 2% more likely to abuse substances, and 6 times more likely to take risks. They are also twice as likely to repeat grades and less likely to graduate, allowing them to make critical choices at 16, jeopardize their future before adulthood. Tackling Madame Moderator, for girls, the consequences are just as severe. Teenage pregnancy remains a leading cause of school dropouts, especially for girls who come from low income communities. The 2024 UNICEF Early Childbearing Report confirms these girls are more likely to become pregnant. Without support, many have multiple children from different baby fathers, trapped in a cycle of economic turmoil and emotional distress. We laugh at Mary and Jerry Springer, but for many, this is reality. Additionally, Madame Moderator, clinical social worker Sequoia Servia from Sarah Lesser Medical Center expressed concern in a 2024 panel about teen STI rates increasing. Chlamydia, the silent disease, she warns is spreading rapidly in schools, with 60% of infected girls contracting it from older men. This STI treatment is costly, leading to undiagnosed cases and potential infertility. Is this the responsible decision making the law envisioned? Finally, Madame Moderator, who bears the burden if not the child or parents? Our social and healthcare systems. According to Rashada Adam Matthews, Environmental, Social, Safeguard and Gender Officer in the Ministry of Health, 49% of Antiguans solely rely on public health care, many of them being vulnerable young women. My worthy opponents, teen pregnancies and surging STIs strain these services, diverting resources from national development. Madame Moderator, the current law contributes to school dropouts, teen pregnancies, STIs, and socio-economic distress. It needs to change, align it with voting, and secure a stable future for our youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Keisha. That was Keisha Harilal, the second speaker from the proposing team, the Sonova Richards Academy, presenting her argument in a time of 3 minutes and 17 seconds. We now move to the final speaker in the prepared presentation, and she comes from the opposing team, the St. Mary's Secondary School. Please welcome Miss Genovia Omard.
Madam Moderator, most esteemed judges, our worthy opponents, listening and viewing audiences, good evening. My convincing colleague would have awakened their awareness to the realization that the 16-year-old's brain is sufficiently developed, they can make critical decisions, and the impractical expectation of all teenagers to practice abstinence until the age of 18. I will solidify our stance by continuing to prove why the age of consent in Antigua and Barbuda should not be raised to the voting age with the following facts. To begin, there are legal and financial impacts of raising the age of consent to 18. Our worthy opponents, research from PubMed Central and sentiments echoed by Magistrate Dane Hamilton, warned that raising the age of consent could instantly impact teenagers and potentially criminalize 60% of our youth. This will damage their future job prospects and reputations for life. Madam Moderator, our government and people cannot ignore the financial burden of housing these inmates. Let's get real. His Majesty's prison is already in a deplorable state, with overcrowding, water shortages, and safety concerns, as reported by the Antigua Observer. To incarcerate these newly criminalized teenagers, we must either expand the prison or build a new one. Our worthy opponents, where will the money come from? In our humble opinion, these scarce resources will be better spent on repairing roads and government buildings. Finally, the focus should be on enforcing the current laws to deter sexual predators. Despite existing legal limits, individuals younger than 16 continue to remain vulnerable to exploitation. According to the Criminal Record Office attached to the Royal Police Force of Antigua and Barbuda, there are on average 30 recorded statutory rapes per year in Antigua and Barbuda. This is 30 too many. Most esteemed judges, understand this. We are not advocating for young people to engage in sexually deviant behavior. Instead, we are highlighting the real issue, which is the enforcement of our current laws and not the age of consent itself. Many predators escape punishment due to loopholes, lack of reporting, and weak enforcement. Increasing penalties for convicted sexual offenders would serve as a stronger deterrent than merely shifting the age of consent. We must create and implement the use of an updated sex offenders registry, which is easily accessible to the public. Madam Moderator, we will be overlooking the reality that abstinence isn't universal, and we will be creating legal and financial burdens. We should elect to empower teenagers by investing in educating and guiding them to make informed choices regarding their sexual health. Most esteemed judges, would raising the age of consent not undermine the trust rightfully placed in 16-year-olds to make informed decisions? I rest my case.
Thank you, Genovia. That was Genovia Omar, the second speaker from the opposing team, the St. Mary's Secondary, presenting her argument in a time of 2 minutes and 57 seconds. Please, a huge round of applause for our debaters for their efforts and preparation in the prepared presentations this evening. It's time for the rebuttals. But before we hear from our rebuttal speakers, we will hear from our sponsor, Caribbean Union Bank. And when we come back, the rebuttals will begin. Please stay with us.
Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way. Caribbean Union Bank, you matter to us. Caribbean Union Bank, our people, our purpose. Every day at Caribbean Union Bank, we are committed to creating the kinds of products and services that you want and need. We are not just a bank. We are your partner on your journey to financial freedom and success. Because we are driven by you. Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way.
Welcome back to this, our first encounter in round 2 of the Caribbean Union Bank Intersecondary School Debate Series. You just witnessed the prepared presentations being made by both of our teams this evening, and we are just about ready to hear the rebuttal arguments. The motion on the discussion this evening, the age of consent in Antigua and Barbuda should be raised to match the voting age. The age of consent in Antigua and Barbuda should be raised to match the voting age. In this rebuttal phase, each speaker will challenge and critique the arguments put forth by their opponents. I urge each rebuttal speaker to critically analyze and refute the opposing arguments while upholding respect for their opponent. The opposition side, the St. Mary's Secondary School, will begin this round, followed by the proposing team, the Sonova Richards Academy. Each rebuttal speaker has 3 minutes to present their arguments. The bell will sound once at the 2-minute mark and twice when the 3 minutes is up. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let's begin the rebuttals. And we begin with the rebuttal speaker from the St. Mary's Secondary School. Please welcome Dominic Blair.
Madam Moderator, most esteemed judges, our worthy opponents, listening and viewing audiences, good evening once again. Our opponent would have put up a fight, but they failed. Allow me to highlight some key flaws that they made. To begin, our opponents would have mentioned that adolescents lack cognitive development, thus they are not fully developed, and that young people are vulnerable to exploitation. But our worthy opponents, based on research that Dr. Leroy Marsh confirmed, the prefrontal cortex, which is sufficiently developed at the age of 15 and 16. So therefore, they are able to make critical decisions, and I say this confidently. Secondly, our opponents mentioned that a higher age of consent will align with international standards and will eliminate the inconsistent age limit. But did you know that in the US, the age limit varies based on state, and countries like Scotland and Wales currently have their voting age at 16? And also, the UK is currently considering to lower the age of consent. Opponents, I don't see a problem with this inconsistent age limit. Thirdly, our opponents have mentioned that Raising the age of consent will protect women and girls in Antigua and Barbuda from sexual predators. But are young people the only age group that needs protection? Both mature and immature females remain vulnerable. Why not copy the People's Republic of China, where there is an execution policy for anyone found guilty for statutory rape? Why don't the Royal Police Force and the government work together to implement harsher penalties for these predators? Question opponents. How would raising the age of consent benefit young people if the current laws are ignored? Lastly, our opponents mention that raising the age of consent will protect women and girls. But but what about the boys? Don't they need protection also by raising the age of consent? How is raising the age of consent going to help? To conclude, or in our to conclude, most honorable judges, in our humble opinion, we think a more practical approach would be to establish a comprehensive sex education campaign which would empower young people to make informed choices, open conversation about abstinent contraceptions and disease preventative measures, rather than simply raising the age of consent that we all know will be ineffective and a waste of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. That was Dominic Blair presenting rebuttal arguments on behalf of the St. Mary's Secondary School, who is opposing this evening, and he did so in a time of 2 minutes and 29 seconds. We now turn to the opposing team, the Sonova Richards Academy. Please welcome the rebuttal speaker, Ms. Jade Joseph.
Madam Moderator, honorable judges, worthy opponents, viewing and listening audience, once again, good evening. My opponents presented quite a wealth of information as to why the age of consent should not be raised. However, their argument is misguided as it lacks theoretical framework and moral impacts on our society. Firstly, Madam Moderator, my opposition stated that since 16-year-olds are mature enough to consent to sexual activity, though our bodies may be well carved out, our brains are not. Neuroscience, Kohlberg, and Piaget also agree that we are impulsive, irresponsible, and easily coerced, making decisions just to fit in and ignoring the consequences of our actions. Secondly, Madam Moderator, my worthy opponent stated that 16-year-olds can go through dental and medical procedures. However, the Licensing Act prohibits alcohol sales to minors, and the Road Traffic Act requires supervision for 16-year-olds until they can legally drive at 18, deeming this law to be inconsistent. Thirdly, honorable judges, my opponents want you to believe that we are trying to criminalize teenage relationships, and that is not so. The law is set in place to criminalize the exploitation of teenagers from older adults. As Kit Martell said in a British parliamentary debate, and we know that exploitation is happening because Dr. Sevier stated that 60% of infected girls contract STIs from older men. Lastly, Madam Moderator, my opponent stated that other countries also have their age of consent at 16 and that some states are thinking of lowering it. So, is this a monkey see, monkey do situation? Not because something is common means it's suitable. So, if this is the case, should we, like our neighboring island, St. Vincent, lower our age of consent to 15? Don't believe me? Check the UN Women Report. Or should we go further, like South America, some countries in South America, and raise it and lower it to 15? I think not. To conclude, this law does not protect me. Instead, it is pressuring me. It's a burden to me, it's a burden to my parents, and it's a burden to our social systems. Hence, it should be revised and aligned with voting. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Jade Joseph, the rebuttal speaker from the Sonova Richards Academy, presenting her argument in a time of 2 minutes and 41 seconds. I hear all the chattering around me, so it means that we would want to give both teams a resounding round of applause for their excellent effort this evening, not only in the prepared presentation, but in the rebuttals as well. Who will advance to the next stage? Will it be our defending champions, the Nova Riches Academy, or the St. Mary's Secondary School? Please stay with us and you will find out after we would have heard from our sponsor, Caribbean Union Bank.
Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way. Caribbean Union Bank, you matter to us. Caribbean Union Bank, our people, our purpose. Every day at Caribbean Union Bank, we are committed to creating the kinds of products and services that you want and need. We are not just a bank. We are your partner on your journey to financial freedom and success. Because we are driven by you. Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way.
Thank you for staying with us and welcome back to this our first encounter in round 2 of the Caribbean Union Bank Intersecondary School Debate Series. It was an encounter which featured the Stonewall Riches Academy and the St. Mary's Secondary School debating the motion, the age of consent in Antigua and Barbuda should be raised to match the voting age. Now, it is time for the final decision. I now invite Mrs. Elisa Graham to present the judge's report and to announce the winner of this evening's encounter. Please welcome her as she comes.
Thank you so much, Ms. Knowles. Good evening, everyone. It is indeed my pleasure to present on behalf of a panel of esteemed, empowered women ahead of International Women's Day. So we are definitely very happy to be here this evening. First of all, let me commend both teams. And when I say commend both teams, I mean commend both teams. Give yourselves a round of applause. Tonight's encounter, and I literally wrote down these words: riveting, entertaining, nail biting, educating, and most of all, of an extremely high caliber. So give yourselves a round of applause once again. We found that each speaker on each team committed to the topic, they connected with the topic. There was extensive evidence of local, regional, and international research. We heard quotations from laws of Antigua and Barbuda. We heard quotations from sources from China. We heard quotations from places like the United Kingdom. We heard quotations from literally all over the globe. So again, congratulations on literally taking this topic to another level instead of just leaving it at the basic, age of consent, talk about voting, that sort of thing. It literally went into how exactly can that topic benefit us here in Antigua and Barbuda. Again, we're really, really, really very, very pleased with the presentations of each team here tonight. In terms of specifics, we found that there was extensive named credible sources. They weren't just like thrown around. First names and second names were given, websites were given, the actual authors were given, the years were given. Again, excellent. We also found that in terms of critique, though, we found that there were some speakers who relied on the script a bit more than others. Nothing was wrong with that because, again, in this context, what it did, it just basically separated them just by a little bit. But despite the reliance on the script, they were still able to actually. Sorry about that. Despite the reliance on the script, they were still able to actually give us. We were able to understand exactly what it is that they were trying to explain. We also found that there were some persons, some speakers, who spoke a little bit faster than others, but we understand the nerves and everything and so on. However, again, that did not significantly impact the overall delivery of the speech. Just in terms of moving forward, though, focus on taking your time as much as possible. I can say that there are times I struggle with that as well, but it takes practice. Take your time. And also in terms of redefining the mood. That is very, very important in debating, because when you are able to interpret the topic that is given to you and then find the 3 or 4 points that actually establish that mood in, and then of course give the factual information, that is definitely a plus. And we found that that was a little bit lacking tonight. So now to the good stuff, the extra good stuff. We found that the rebuttals tonight were excellent on both teams, from both teams. Excellent, excellent delivery of rebuttals. And we know that over the past, we would have had situations and challenges in that department. So again, to the coaches and the students and the research teams of both the Sonova Riches Academy and the St. Mary's Secondary School, congratulations again on delivering excellent rebuttals here tonight. There was one team in the rebuttal section, however, and this I can say on behalf of the judges was the definite determining factor in terms of the results that you will hear tonight. That team was able to literally word for word. I don't know exactly how that was accomplished, but again, definitely kudos to that team. They were able to word for word list the topics, the points that were raised by the other team in their rebuttal and counter each of those points separately. So that definitely, again, a round of applause for that. So we move on to the actual results now. The better speakers. So for the better speaker for the Sonova Riches Academy is Miss Keisha Harilal. We found that the better speaker for the St. Mary's Secondary was Mr. Dominic Blair. And we found that the best overall speaker for tonight's encounter was from the St. Mary's Secondary, Mr. Dominic Blair. And now for the scores. And again, always remember that the judge's decision is final. The St. Mary's Secondary School, 86 points. The Sonova Richards Academy, 84 points, thus making the St. Mary's Secondary School the winner of tonight's encounter. Thank you.
Thank you. And please join me in extending our appreciation to our esteemed panel for their dedication, commitment, and professionalism in adjudicating this evening's encounter. Please give them a round of applause. I wish at this time to offer congratulations to the better debater on the side of the proposition, Ms. Keisha Harilal, and the better debater on the side of the opposition, Mr. Dominic Blair, who is also judge or best overall debater this evening. And congratulations again to the St. Mary's Secondary School for making it to our semi-final round. Please give them a round of applause. Now, I don't know if our defending champions are dejected, but you should not be. Because as the judges said, the debate was of a very high caliber this evening. So I want us to give a round of applause to Sonova Riches Academy for the excellent effort they put in this evening. We will now hear from our debaters as they give their final words, and we begin with the Sir Novel Richards Academy. Please welcome Miss Keisha Harrell to the podium.
First, I want to thank God. Without Him, none of this would be possible. To my amazing team, I am proud of our hard work. To our amazing coaches, thank you in us. Thank you for believing in us in every step of the way. Thank you to my opponents. You gave us a real challenge. And thank you to the honorable judges and organizers and to everyone who supported us.
Thank you, Keisha. And we now move to the opposing team, the St. Mary's Secondary School, and we invite Genovia Omar to come forward to offer final remarks.
Good evening once again. Firstly, I would like to thank God for life, so we could all be here today. I would also like to thank everyone who has helped, supported, and guided my colleague and I up to this point. I would like to thank everyone who made today's encounter possible. Our worthy opponents, thank you for this challenging, interesting, and educational debate. I hope everyone continues to enjoy this debate series. Thank you.
Thank you. And as we leave, we say thank you to you, our listening and viewing audience, for being with us this evening. We encourage you to continue to engage in debate. Debate is essential because it teaches us not only to defend our views, but also to listen and to understand opposing perspectives. It is through constructive dialogue that we grow intellectually and socially, shaping a more informed and open minded society. Join us next week for another thrilling, or should I say riveting, debate in the 2025 Caribbean Union Bank Intersecondary School Debate Series, when the St. Joseph's Academy will meet the St. Anthony's Secondary School, debating the moot. Curbing non-communicable diseases is the primary responsibility of the individual and not the government. Until then, I have been your moderator, Alicia Knowles. Thank you for being with us once again. Do have a wonderful evening and God bless.